Welcome to BW Dialogue of BW Business World. Today we have a very special guest, Shivali Bhammer. It is my honor and privilege to introduce her to you all. Motivational speaker, singer, actor, writer, equity derivatives broker, Shivali Bhammer is a lady who wears many hats. Indian origin, London-born Shivali lives between London and Dallas and has a degree in economics and philosophy. She was the youngest and only artist to ever be signed by Sony Music BMG for bhajans. Her devotional albums, The Bhajan Project and Urban Temple, reached the top position on the iTunes World Chart. Shivali was nominated for 2 Global Indian Music Awards at the age of 23 and was listed as the top 25 under 25 South Asian artists in England. As a prolific public speaker, Shivali delivered the keynote address in New York for the International Women's Day Conference. She also led a talk on diverse topics like mindfulness, mantras, and meditation for the Alchemist Kitchen, New York, and was the workshop leader for the Spiritual Directors Conference in St. Louis, where she conducted a session on the nature of karma yoga to a predominantly senior Christian audience who enthusiastically took notes. Shivali also holds a diploma in acting, Kathak, and ballet. As a writer, she has been published in newspapers like the Financial Times, the Orange County Register, Science and Spirituality, Spirituality and Health, Spiritual Directors International, etc., on topics of philosophy and faith. She is also an award-winning playwright and has done documentaries and recordings for BBC TV, BBC Radio, and other radio channels in both India and USA. Welcome, Shivali.
Hi. Thank you.
My first question to you is, how have the last 9 months been for you during the COVID-19 pandemic, personally and professionally?
So professionally, it's been, artistically, it's been difficult in that I was meant to release my third album this Diwali, and that didn't happen. Record labels have really suffered this year. We're not doing a lot of concerts. We are not able to travel and perform. Diwali's, my big season and probably when I perform the most, and none of that could happen. So I think musically and public speaking and going to these conferences and delivering these speeches, it has been difficult. But on the flip side, it has meant that, as every artist has done, we've used the social platforms. We've used IGTV a lot more. We've used YouTube a lot more. We've tried to bring our talent to people and to help people in a different way, but through the computer, just like you and I are meeting now in Zoom. And on a personal level, I think, so I actually live between London and New York. And I happened to be in London while the pandemic happened, which is good because London's my home. But, living alone for 7 months is tough. And when you couldn't see anybody for those first few months, that was extremely difficult. It was kind of like going into the Himalayas and deciding to become a yogi and seeing what happened, but in an urban jungle, in a concrete jungle instead. So it was quite the experience. But I think this year has been tough for every single person I know, and so it's been a great opportunity for growth.
Okay, Shivali, when did you find your inner calling? Like you were working for Goldman Sachs, but you left that job, and so when did you find your inner calling?
So in Sanskrit, we call it your swabhav, which means your nature, and where you naturally align yourself to. And I think from when I was super young, my calling was always in the performing arts, but it was always in something spiritual. So so that mix has always been my calling. Now, whether you listen to your calling or you don't, or whether the doors open or they don't, that's something that's out of our control sometimes. But the calling was always there. It just depends if I listened or not.
Okay. So, what is your true passion? Like, you wear many hats. Which is your favorite?
Uh, that's a really good question. Nobody's ever asked me that. So my personal favorite, um, my personal favorite is dance. That that is what most people would argue I'm the best at. What I'm known the most for is music, is public speaking. Um, they all give very, very different pleasures. But I think, music, public speaking, writing, these are things that I happen to earn out of. But I don't really I don't ask for payment for my dance. So whatever you don't ask for payment for is kind of personal to you, right? You're not relying on it. And so I guess it's a natural favorite.
Okay. You are a winner and an inspiration to the youth around the world. So, how do you manage staying focused and not at all become arrogant despite being in the limelight?
Who says I'm not arrogant? I'm super. No, I'm joking. I'm really arrogant. No, I'm. I think life teaches you that things are always going to go wrong, and that your life is full of imperfections. Especially when you seek perfection, your life is still full of imperfections. And if it's not in your work life, then it's in your personal life. There is always this feeling. I've always had this feeling that I'm not always my best, or I'm not doing my best, or I could be better. So where is the space to become arrogant? If you become arrogant, it's because you feel you've achieved something. For me, I've achieved 10% what I thought I could achieve, or 100th of what I think I should achieve. So there's no room for arrogance.
Okay, fantastic. So, what was the tipping point that made you change your journey? Was it driven by your inner voice or a want to give back to the world through your initiatives? You conduct meditations. What was the point where you changed your journey?
So I don't think my journey ever really changed. I mean, maybe it did when I was very young, when I was going down the economics route, and then the trading, broking, all of that route. Then maybe it changed. But we're taught in spirituality that the fastest way to happiness is to be a sevak and to serve. And so the arts is a really good way to serve. When you're singing, when you're acting, when you're writing, you're entertaining. You're seeking to give pleasure to an audience. That pleasure that you give to someone, it then gives you pleasure. So I think it was just that. It was, how do I connect with people, and what can I give them that it comes naturally to me?
Okay. So, who do you derive motivation and inspiration from?
Sister Shivani from the Brahma Kumaris. She is like the dawn of spirituality. I just think she's so cool. I don't know if you've ever listened to her, but she is so cool. And I love her. I love Barack Obama. I'm a big Obama fan. I was a volunteer in his first election campaign in New York. I just think I think he just has such power and conviction in what he believes in, and he has an honesty about him. And I think that's really attractive.
Okay. Could you please tell us a little bit more about your journey and various endeavors?
Yes.
It's a lot.
My journey is one that I think most Indians recognize, where you are pulled into academia, you're pulled into a traditional path where your parents say you better become something, and so you go down that path. But then, of course, I diverted off to be an artist because that's what I felt naturally inclined to. And I think my journey is sort of like a little bit like a tree. So the roots were that I grew up training in Kathak. I grew up singing bhajans. I grew up writing plays as a child, acting. I did all these things naturally. I would write speeches. I was in public speaking competitions for the Corporation of London. All these things were like the roots that were given to me. And then you see the branches and the flowers sprout, and it goes in various ways. And so my journey has been really, really colorful. So on any typical day in my life, I can wake up and I can, have to record or produce or do something to do with music in the morning, and then I have to write a script or submit a script for something, for a project, and then I have to write a speech for something else. So it's a really varied day, and I think that's kind of my journey. It's this multicolored, colorful existence, which can be positive and can be negative.
Okay. I know about a little bit about spirituality because my mother is a healer, and
okay.
yeah, she's actually my stepmom. She's from Serbia. She's a master clinical hypnotherapist, and
wow.
She conducts meditations and gives Shaktipat. Shaktipat is the energy from the higher consciousness.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And she's into yoga, and she's a very, very spiritual person. So,
that sounds really cool. I'd like to receive that.
So, okay, just on that note, I would want to ask you, do you feel that every soul has a purpose on earth?
Absolutely. I think every soul is born free. The soul is free, and the soul's journey is one of expression and of creative freedom, and the freedom to enjoy consciousness and existence and express itself and experience itself in the same way that, Krishna experiences the love of Radha and Radha experiences the love of Krishna. One and two of the same, but unless you separate, you can't really experience that love of your own self. So in the same way, the soul is here to experience everything that it can and whatever it desires. And it's infinite, and it goes on.
It's like, are you talking about the birth and death cycle and the exhaustion of karma?
Yes and no. I think your soul has goes through cycles of which it is releasing this karma and creating this karma, and obviously eventually it tires of this cycle and it breaks out of it, what we call moksha, or what Buddhists call nirvana. It's the same thing, but that even when that soul works its way towards enlightenment, it still doesn't die, right? As we know, the soul doesn't die in nature. So that soul just goes back into its energy. It's like a wave, and it collapses back into the ocean. But when the ocean decides to rise again and become a wave, that, energy has that choice. So in that sense, life is continuous. It's just a continuous flow, and the soul is that flow.
Okay, so do you also believe in the fact that maybe our life path is destined, but we have few choices which we can make with our free will?
I think the things that are considered destiny or destined are the things created by our past karma. Okay. I think everything is down to us. You have the ability to change certain things, but those things means that whatever karma you use today to change it has to overpower the karmic effect of something before. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So tomorrow if I want to be a doctor, but my karma is such that I was just meant to be a singer, just meant to be a singer. Maybe I can really study hard and push myself into medicine and push, and I can change it. And the effect of that will change my karma and I'll become a doctor. However, if the grooves of that karma that I should just be a singer are so strong that I can't overpower that desire to be a doctor. But that doesn't mean it doesn't then exist in another life form. So I think souls can exist in multi-dimensions within multiple universes at exactly the same time. And we have a scripture actually called the Yoga Vashishta where it talks about that. So I think you can, whatever you want to do, you can do. It just might not be within this physical body, within this time-space continuum.
Okay. What do you feel
That was a bit confusing, wasn't it?
No, not at all. It was perfectly, very insightful. Could you tell us what you feel is the mantra for success in anything that you believe in or anything that you're passionate about?
So 2 words first came to my mind, which was discipline and patience. Discipline, because without strengthening your mind on what you wish to do, it doesn't get that focus and that dedication. And everybody knows this. Everybody knows when they work on something, no matter what it is, they know when they have put their focus and their discipline to that. That's what it takes to become a master in anything. But what you also need is you need incredible patience. You have to be able to wait, and you have to be able to trust that eventually it will bear fruit. So patience, trust, and dedication, I think that's the mantra for success. And the world that we live in and the social media world that we live in means patience is becoming very difficult for people. People want instant gratification and instant success. Even I do. And that's not how it works.
You set an example of breaking the shackles and pursuing what your soul wants you to pursue. So how did you get encouraged to go on to your soul's purpose? Was there anyone who encouraged you? Was it an inner calling?
I think I was blessed. I think I had a lot of good company growing up. I think there were a lot of Hanuman Chalisas done on my head, and there were a lot of prayers done for me. And I met a lot of these saints of India, and I think my path was just sort of protected. But it doesn't mean that I've always done what is the calling or what is my calling. I have gone like here, there, everywhere. I've done things that you'd wonder why the hell I did them or what time I was wasting. But see, I don't know if your soul has any particular calling apart from a need to realize itself, its true nature. That's it. And that can come from so many things. And it's just recognizing that. Can you recognize that stream of consciousness and everything that you do and why it leads you to where it leads you? And if the soul feels like it's being opened, then that is that calling.
So when was the first time that you felt you were so multi-talented and you had this aptitude for a lot of fields? So they are related to art, to spirituality, to entertainment, to everything actually. So when did you first realize that you're so blessed?
I don't think I've ever thought of myself that way. I think I didn't think of it as a talent. I just looked at it as I enjoy doing. I like jumping around, so I jump around. It was very natural to me. There was no sort of ego involved. Mainly because my parents didn't allow me to have an ego. My dad called me a jack of all trades, master of nothing. My mom said, are you going to spend your whole life jumping and dancing around? So I was never really allowed to feel like, oh, I'm so talented, or oh, I'm so blessed, or anything like that. However, as I have become older, and I've realized that actually it is a blessing. We as women think that if we get married, we've achieved something. If we have children, we've achieved something. If we settle down, we've achieved something. So many women and men applaud women just because they're getting married, just because they're settling down. When I tell some of my friends, some of my, male friends, when I've said to them, hey, I've got some news, they said, oh, are you engaged? And I said, no, my play is being produced in London. That's my great news. And I've realized that actually these things that you can create for yourself, by yourself, because it comes from yourself, that is real. That is blessing, because as you grow older, you will see that more people come in and out of your life. Eventually, I know it's sad to say, but eventually we lose everybody, or they lose us. So we're born alone and we die alone. So what we create for ourselves to stimulate our own self is so important. And so, yeah, I do think it's a real blessing that in the pandemic, when I had nobody around me and I was living alone, I could spend the day dancing, singing, writing, making fun speeches. And I didn't need anybody's company because that's something that came from me.
Do you also believe in Reiki and pranic healing?
Do I believe in Reiki and
pranic healing?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Absolutely. I believe in every kind of healing. I think Reiki is, I don't know much about it. I've maybe had it done to me a couple of times, but I believe in obviously the chakras. I believe that you can, awaken them. I believe that you can be clogged internally, just the way your physical body can be clogged. Or can malfunction, the same way so can your energy. It kind of seems logical and obvious to me. So yes, I definitely believe in that.
So, what would be your message to the youth of today?
I would say try and limit how much you look at social media. That would be my biggest message. Please don't be consumed, because you will compare your life to others and your life is just beginning. And as soon as you compare your life to others, your focus is diverted from your own self. And you have the power and the ability to be and do anything that you want. Don't let anything distract you from that. And there's too much distraction at the moment.
Okay. So there's a statement I believe in. I don't know. I just want to know if you believe in it too. So basically, I believe in that we're not humans on a spiritual journey, but we are spiritual beings on a human journey. Is that true?
Say it again.
Like we're not humans on a spiritual journey, but we're spiritual beings on a human journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's like Lord Rama in the Ramayana. Spiritual being on a human journey, right? That's what all of us are. That was the Buddha. That was Krishna. That was Christ. All of us. We are the Atma. We are that spiritual soul. And yes, we are on a human journey or an animal journey or a plant journey. But that essence is the same.
Okay. Uh, so, just my last question. What would you like to say to our readers and viewers or audience about following your inner voice fearlessly whilst taking calculated risks? Because you can't always be just jump out of that. You have to have a risk. There's a risk factor, and it has to be calculated. So, what would like to say about that?
I would say, look, I've always been a risk taker, always, and it has paid off. But the reason why I've had the ability to be a risk taker is because I've always made sure that I have a safety net. And so I would say to anybody, take risks, because it's only when you take risks do you really get a big reward. But take them once you've built yourself a foundation that you can always fall back on, whether that's education, whether that's, business competency, whatever it is. Just make sure that you can always
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, Kavi's back. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost you. Sorry.
That's okay.
So I reached the part you said where we can take risks, but
yeah, I think we shouldn't confine ourselves. We shouldn't confine ourselves to only think that we are destined for XYZ. You don't know. The sky is limitless, and you really have to have that fearlessness. You have to recognize that if you are open, the universe is open, and then everything will flow in that way. And you keep going. You keep going. Too many of us live with fear. Even I do. But fear strangles you, and it prevents you from achieving. It blinds you. And we're not, as you said, we're spiritual people. We're spiritual bodies in a human path, and so we should recognize our own power and our own infinite nature.
Okay. I just got reminded, you were talking about this, and I got reminded of the fact my father is a hotelier, and I wanted to be a hotelier myself. So
Okay.
I went into hotel management, and after 2 years, I realized that I just can't do it. I like writing. So there was this movie called The Adjustment Bureau, and I saw that movie, and after watching that movie, I realized that I'm not cut out for hotels. And then I started my journey on journalism. So there was a risk.
There was, and turning away from hotels to go into journalism, it's tough. My mother owned nursing homes, very similar. I was in the nursing home industry, and I worked at the Financial Times. I was in journalism. I was in banking, and you do make these choices, and they're choices that are hard to make, especially when your parents have set you up for something that you can take on. It's very hard to then turn your back on that, but it's your own journey, so you have to fulfill that.
Yes, true. I don't have any other questions. If there's anything else you would like to say, just on an ending.
No, I think you asked some pretty interesting questions. So I really had to think about them. So I hope the answers are sufficient. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We are very grateful that you took out time, and It was a pleasure talking to you. This was very insightful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you.